I think that what's good to realize is that I work for the city of Amsterdam. So I give you the local government perspective, which I hope helps. And as a starting point, oh, I can actually walk with this, that's good. Why is there no silver bullet? Well, because childhood obesity is a wicked problem, because it is so complex. And there are no straightforward causal relationships between all the different determinants and behaviors and societal influences. There's so many contextual factors and there's so much dynamic going on that complexity is at the essence of wicked problems. And silver bullets belong to complicated problems, to technical problems. And those kind of problems always have causal relationships that you can tackle, which you can understand, analyze, and then map for. And that can't be happening with complex problems. So what I hope, if you're not doing childhood obesity prevention, listen to my story, because I truly believe, and I find some literature behind that insight, that what the valuable elements of what we're doing and the insight we've gathered apply to a lot of complex problems within the health domain, and I believe as well outside of that. So what we all want for, what everyone in this room, I so strongly felt that today, wants is to change. That we change something about the unequal distribution of health outcomes in the world, in this country, in this city in particular. But what we don't want to do is to leave that up to chance. We don't want to wait for something to happen. And I personally believe that we've been doing that every one of us, the whole system has waited for chance far too long. So we want to change health outcomes. We want to have healthier children, healthier adults. And that means, in essence, that the system needs to change, that everyday practice of everyone involved in the system needs to change. I'm Dutch. Some of you might have some experience already with Dutch people. We always like to tickle and put things a bit strongly. So tell me then why this is what we're still doing. I mean, we all know, whether it's from our own personal lives, our parental responsibilities, if we do what we've been doing yesterday, we get what we got yesterday. And still, at a system level, I don't see us, myself included many of the times, do things differently. Preparing for this, I dived a bit into literature between change and change management. I mean, I'm originally Dutch, I need to find my words in English. And the really nice thing is that change is the state we're aiming for, is the end result. And change management is the process leading up to that change. So for me, this picture helps. Thinking about this, the swarm of birds you'll see in the sky, especially if they transfer from one continent to the other, and they'll be flying in one direction, and then suddenly every single one of them moves, and it's even beautiful. It doesn't look like us changing. If we're changing, we're sort of all running against each other. If they change, it goes very slowly. Well, luckily enough, it's their DNA, and we've sort of skipped this bit in our DNA. But what's really important to realize is the phase between where we are now and where we want to be, that change, that phase is a transition period. And what's so scary about that is that it's fundamental, and need to look it up so I say it right, irreversible. Stepping from here to there, if I'm here, I'm suddenly feeling that I'll never go back there. I might slip back a bit, but I'll never go back there again because I've changed. And that is something so intensely scary for us humans. So it's fundamental, it's irreversible, it is a fundamental change in the way we think, the way we act, and I truly believe it's not in the literature, but as well in the way we think and we feel. And to really change, we need to really live this. We need to do this at every level. So I always know my international audience, you always like a theoretical model. So here's the theoretical picture. This shows that what we're aiming for in Amsterdam at the top level is making healthy the new default, making healthy the new normal. That's the societal change, the big paradigm shift that we're after. And what needs to happen for that is the system change. So at that patchwork of regime level, that's where all of us, most of us are. That's where the financing bodies are, where the academia is. And change is easiest in the niches, in the pockets. Love that word, Kenny. So change is easy, relatively easy at a small local level. It's far more difficult to get that change up in the system and to really, in my personal experience, in the case studies done about us and in our research into our working element, the key element for making this change happen is leadership. I love the subtitle of your network saying, lead the change you want to see, because that is exactly what leadership is. And I picked this picture in particular because I think leadership, it isn't a state. It isn't something that you either have or you have not. My leadership today isn't the leadership I had a year ago. And it will be different again this time next year because my team and my setting needs something different from me. So leadership is standing there and accepting the challenge that's put before you to live the change. And everyone can take its own leadership, whether it's a volunteer, a pediatrician, a mayor, a school teacher. Everyone needs to do things differently if we really want to come as society from here to here. There's lots of evidence about change management. There's lots of evidence about leadership. And I just brought 2 books. At the moment, it's Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. That's really inspiring me. She's literally lying underneath my pillow at night. Moving Questions, only released this week from a Dutch publisher in English. Handing me questions I can ask to people in my team. Find your own inspirators, find your own leadership material. There's no one good way, but the thing is, there's an epidemiological evidence base, there's a health science evidence base, and there's also a leadership evidence base. Use it, because that's what it's for. And all of you are really good in using and implementing leadership evidence bases. So then, everyone asks me, Karen, why have you gotten where you've gotten? And we don't have that mayor, that political leadership that you had in place in 2012 in Amsterdam. So if I haven't got your Eric van der Berg, how can I get to where you're now? And my answer for that is that leadership, political leadership, isn't a given. You can use your own leadership to create political leadership. We had the luxury to have someone in office who from the start of his term thought, this is what I want to change, and I know how to do that. And even if that's not the case, I don't believe there's one political leader in the world. There might be a few political leaders in the world. Let's leave them aside. Not many of them will look you in the eye if you say, in my city, so many thousands of children are morbid obese, are having psychosis, are having mental breakdowns. But you need to know the tricks. We have not been pushing percentages on people. We've talked about numbers. So we've not said things like 21% of the children. We've said things like 27,000 children. That touches people in a different place. And even if you think your leadership can't really be bothered with the believer arguments, find the non-believer arguments. Mark in this room isn't agreeing with me on this. But then find the hooks that they can work for. And after you found your political leadership, you've got to learn from the best. And in my perception at the moment, that's John F. Kennedy, who gave America hope in the 50s. After everything's been settled, the Marshall Deal had taken place, and something new was needed for the country to make a move. And he said, we're going to do something so bold, we're going to aim for something so bizarre that we need to rethink everything. So the essence of moonshot thinking for me is don't think of a goal you want to reach, which is so out of this world, so absolutely unobtainable, because that will force you and all your partners to really think what you're doing, find different words, different alliances, and do things in a different way. Okay, so change needs to happen. Change management is key. And set your moonshot goals with a long-term vision. And what you then need to do is only create a whole systems approach. Well, how difficult can that be? What worked for us is looking at a learning approach, looking at the evidence and really sticking to what we know we need to do. Sorry, that needed to go with this one. So what we all know is that it's not about equality, it's about equity. Then tell me why everywhere in the world what we're doing is heading to equality and not heading for equity. Yes, this means making difficult choices. This means not doing all the boroughs in your city. This means not doing things at every school. This means saying no to children, to parents, but you're saying no to a specific group because you actually want that group that's never had the yes to get the yes. And as some people are smiling at me here, this asks backbone, it asks leadership, but it can be done. And the funny thing is, once we were very strict about it and we talked and we really explained to everyone why we were doing it, who was saying, this actually makes sense. I'm really appalled that you won't commission me, but it actually makes sense. How can I help there? Wonderful. Another thing is, it's only 30 years old, this model, and sorry, it's the texts are a bit wrong. I took the wrong one, sorry about that. The socio-ecological rainbow model by Dahlgren and Whitehead. We all know we need to check all the boxes in order to have a whole systems approach. So implement the whole bloody model and don't decide to cherry pick on it. And that's what we've been doing. So this logic model together with our logic model gives me the dashboard of everything that needs to be done in the city, and then I look at every quarter at everything that's being done. And I can see where the logic model might fail, where the complexity is bigger than we expected, where there's a unique chance that we need to jump on, and where we might be letting it go because things are more complicated, more difficult than we thought before. And within that, and that's going back to that beautiful complexity slide, it's essential to be adaptive and to be open to learning, to constantly have this blank mind now, okay, this is what I wanted to do. It didn't turn out the way I hoped it would be. That's a given. I embrace the complexity and I take it further. What do I need to do? So just very quickly showing you how this looks in Amsterdam. Our aim is to create the new normal, both in the environment and behavior. So looking at environment, what we're doing is both health in all policies work. So we're banning child marketing from sports events and subway stations, and also supporting communities in what they think their members need to do in order for the environment to become healthier and to have a healthy environment for their children to grow up in schools, in community centers, and on birthday parties, for example. And then going to the healthy behavior, we're doing both. So we're doing the community work, we're going to teach parents, we're talking to parents, what do you need to do? What kind of resilience strengths do you need to get more in order for you to have healthy behavior for a healthy parent, thus that your children can have healthy behavior, but also what kind of commissioning do we do as a local government that we can make healthier? So if you go to an after sports activity or a welfare activity in our city, children are not allowed to drink anything else than water. Very silly that we never thought of that before. We're paying for it, so we can ask for all the requirements of it, can't we? And yes, people might grumble a bit, but if they get the really nicely water with the berries and everything, and they have water challenges and everything connected, within no time, children like drinking water. So, wrapping it up. For me personally, and especially for my colleague from Glasgow, what helps me enormously is to know that that incredible muddle, the rumble, as Brené calls it, that's not something that's standing in between me and my everyday work. The muddle is my work. I need to accept that my thing in life is muddling through. And the other thing is, it's not a position or a title leadership, it's action and example. I need to be there for everyone on my team so that they feel supported, muddling through, rumbling through. And in order for that to do that, I need to have my own support base as well. But that can't be my team. I need to find that in myself and in Brené. So, my take-home message, sorry that this is a slide with words on it. Next time I'll have this drawn out as well. Embrace that complexity. Accept it's a long-term process. Leadership is essential. Leadership can be grown. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't come naturally the first time. Nurture and stimulate it. Do the moonshots. Think absurdly big. Not 10% bigger, 10 times bigger. Accept that you need to be adaptive in your learning. Evidence, practice informed. And join me, put on your nasty clothes, and accept being in the middle. Because it's actually great fun being there.